This was supposed to be a mundane public appearance for the king, but the revelations in the Epstein files mean that the most senior member of the firm is now being asked one question.
Charles, how long have you known about Andrew and Epstein?
The Epstein files have laid bare the deep personal relationship between the paedophile and the prince. Today, the disclosures showing the former Duke sharing confidential state information is now under police consideration for alleged misconduct in a public office. In this email, documents the former prince obtained in his official capacity as trade envoy was immediately shared with Jeffrey Epstein. Here, the former prince emails Epstein. Attached is a confidential brief produced by the Provincial Reconstruction Team in Helmand Province for international investment opportunities. The disclosures show a pattern following the criminal investigation into Peter Mandelson for the same kinds of disclosures as Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. However, the most severe allegations against the former prince still evade police action. Virginia Giuffre alleged that she was trafficked for sex with the royal by Jeffrey Epstein. But no criminal investigation has ever been launched by the Metropolitan Police, even as vocal support for Epstein's victims grow, including from the royal family itself. A Kensington Palace spokesperson said that Prince William and Princess Catherine were deeply concerned by the ongoing revelations and that their thoughts are firmly with the victims. But their statement did not mention Jeffrey Epstein by name, nor Prince William's uncle, a man facing several allegations. And considering just how robustly Buckingham Palace initially defended the former prince, the question that senior members of his family are being asked is, what do they know now and what did they know then?
There are serious reasons to believe that the late Queen, Charles and William were all aware of these allegations going back decades. So there has to be questions as to what they knew, when, and why they have been covering for Andrew, and by doing so, enabling him to continue in the way he has over the last 2 decades.
But as the king visited a cheesemaker, any allegation of collusion was rejected by Buckingham Palace over a scandal leaving a bitter taste. Today, in a statement, the palace said the king has shown in words and action his concern over the conduct of Mr. Mountbatten-Windsor, and if approached by Thames Valley Police, that the king is ready to support them. But the force had not been in touch over allegations Andrew shared confidential reports with Epstein. The former prince has always denied the most severe sexual allegations, yet each day new files pull another thread of the establishment. And if Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor was once protected by the Queen, today his big brother said the former prince is on his own.
Simeon Brown will join me now as the royal historian Tessa Dunlop. The word extraordinary is overused, but this is an extraordinary intervention, isn't it, by the king?
It is, and I think what's played out over the last week or so is the extraordinary disparity between the way in which the government is cannibalising itself over the appointment of Peter Mandelson as the US ambassador, given his known connections to Epstein, while it appeared the royal family were able to walk on by. In fact, I have it on good authority that when Keir Starmer effectively shot from the hip en route back from his Asian tour and said that to be victim-centred, really, Andrew should testify, or words to that effect, the royal family were most displeased that he'd gone there and he'd not consulted the palace first. Well, over a week on, and how things have changed. 2 bungled attempts at addressing this. Edward, of course, was bounced into responding in Dubai, and then this morning, that sort of non-statement from the Prince and Princess of Wales, a reminder, really, that this charade could no longer continue and that the king had to speak.
I mean, the question is, why now, though, isn't it?
Well, I think it's accumulation of what's been happening. And you have this extraordinary parallel story where, on the one hand, Peter Mandelson is being run over the coals, and the government and the Labour Party associated with him likewise. And at the same time, it appears that the same rules don't apply to a man who is now a private citizen, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. It's worth bearing in mind the sort of biblical mantra that the royal family have operated under since 1867, when Walter Bagehot said, you know, we must not let in daylight upon the magic. That needs to be entirely reversed. But the worry is, if it is reversed, how will the royal family sustain the interrogation? And I'm talking about, for example, their taxation, the way in which they evade financial accountability. There's a lot of questions about who exactly is paying for Marsh Farm. The King's private finances, but if he's given a buy in terms of his taxation deals, then really it's us that are paying for Marsh Farm. Or likewise, the fact that Andrew's files as a trade envoy are under lock and key until 2065. If he was an ordinary layperson, they would be available for the public to scrutinise within 20 years.
We're just running out, slightly out of time. I just want to ask you, are you clear exactly what the King is talking about today? When he says, you know, we stand ready to cooperate with any investigation, is he talking about any investigation, including investigation about sexual allegations? And of course, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor denies it all, or just about the trade details that are being looked at the moment?
I think it's with specific regard to the trade envoy role of Andrews and the fact this may have been an abuse of public office. It is a salient reminder, by the way, that ultimately, if Andrew is drawn across the legal coals, it is on that question of misconduct in a public office and not women and accusations of rape and sexual misconduct, a reminder of just how hard it is to bring predominantly male offenders to justice. A reminder, of course, that when it comes to a rape case or a case about sexual misconduct, you have the two chief witnesses as the accused and the accuser, and the odds will always be stacked against the woman. And I think really, with the long lens of history, we will look back at Virginia Giuffre, tragically the late Virginia Giuffre, as one of the great game changers of the early 21st century.
Tessa Dunlop, going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much for talking to us.